Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the M Squared Power Hour. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Joe Matthews. On the line, we have Mr. Andy Minton.
What's up?
And as always, our super producer, Mr. Joey Emmerich.
What up, what up, what up?
And tonight, we have a very special episode for you. We are going to be live and we are recording for YouTube. So I really hope you guys enjoy this episode tonight. It's going to be great. And before we jump into it, I'm going to pass this on over to Andy for all of our social media stuff.
You can catch us on Twitter and Instagram at M2_Power Hour and on Facebook at M2.Power Hour. And that is also where you can catch us on YouTube. But if you're already listening on YouTube, you know that. You can catch us on any podcast catcher out there. Just search for M2 Power Hour. And we always love 5-star ratings and reviews. Let us know how we're doing.
Yes. And on YouTube, now that you can see us, make comments, good comments. Let us know how good we look. And just communicate with us. We'd love to talk back with you, back and forth on YouTube and even on our Facebook and Instagram stuff.
I don't know about you guys, but I was always told I have a face for radio. So.
Well, that's good since we had a radio show.
Right. Oh man, so we've had a busy week. We have a lot of things we're gonna cover. So I'm gonna just go ahead and straight pass it over to Andy because he's got a point to make. He's pretty fired up about college football right now, and wants to. I'll just give it to you, Andy. Go for it.
Okay. So the Big Ten announced that they was the first to announce, and other conferences are going to follow suit, but they're the first ones to announce this week that they're going to a conference-only football schedule, and I think that is terrible for college football. And here's why. You ready? I'm going to throw some facts at you.
Facts? Who needs those?
Yes. Okay. Nebraska and Rutgers are both part of the Big Ten. Their schools are almost 1,300 miles apart. They're good to play each other. That's fine. Rutgers and Temple cannot play each other. Their schools are less than 65 miles apart.
Yeah, but it's not all health stuff. Like, you can't just... the big reason why...
You're right. It's not all health stuff. It's money. The Big Ten and the major conferences don't want to pay millions of dollars to come up to these schools, these patsy schools, to come up here and beat them.
No, it's the big thing, and this is all because of the Ivy League schools. This all comes back. Ivy League canceled sports for the entire fall. Yes.
No.
Here's the deal. Yes.
They're a Division II school. It has nothing to do with the Ivy League.
Yeah, but some of the Big Ten teams play Ivy League schools. So now...
That's bad for football, too.
That really
okay, I'll give you
is.
That. But here's the big part of that, is because they play them, since they don't have sports, now those teams don't have any team to fill that slot in their schedule.
I'm sure they could, because I'm sure the Ivy League teams were playing some other team that has a game open on their schedule now. But what about the athletic departments that depend on the money, the millions of dollars that they would have come and gotten? Okay, I'll use Charlotte for example. It's supposed to be Tennessee's opener. So because and the SEC is going to follow suit, and because conference play, because whatever, Charlotte, the athletic department misses out all that money from Tennessee, they would have poured back into their school and their athletic department. So now those athletic departments don't have that money. I think you're going to see athletic programs crumble because of this. Because of revenue for the smaller schools. And that's bad for college football. It's bad for athletics.
So, but a question, since we're talking about Big Ten. So does that mean the Big Ten, they can't, conveniently miss somebody on their schedule? So like Ohio State can't miss Michigan State, or I don't know if they're in the same conference or not. But
They are.
They are.
okay. All right.
No, Ohio State this year, the big game, and this is going to cost Ohio State money. The big game for Ohio State this year was Oregon. So you don't have that Ohio State-Oregon game. And that was going to be this year, yeah. So that was going to be big money.
Tennessee was supposed to play Oklahoma.
Mm.
And the one team, I will say there's one team that plays a lot of Big Ten teams that this could hurt their schedule. Like, I feel bad for them, and that's Notre Dame. I think they play maybe 3 or 4 Big Ten teams on their schedule.
They can't play 4 anymore because they play a heavy ACC schedule now.
Okay, so maybe just 3. But still, 3 games out of your season, that's a pretty heavy hit. I think this year you're going to see there won't be a national championship game.
But what about the in-state rivalries that are out of conference?
Yeah, Miami, Florida. You know.
Florida State and Miami, or Florida State and Florida. Georgia Tech, Georgia. Clemson, South Carolina. Texas A&M. Iowa State. Do I
to be honest,
going?
my personal
Oklahoma
opinion on it all,
State.
there won't be
in the same
football this
conference.
season.
Do what?
Wait, first off, I'm not the only one that got conferences mixed up. Just saying it, Joe just messed up. Okay.
Okay.
Well, mine at least my teams were in the same state.
Okay.
Like you threw Arizona in the ACC. I'm just saying. Like.
Yeah, let's not even talk about how far West Virginia is away from the other Big 12 schools.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, because the Big 12 followed suit with the Big 10. Correct.
I don't think it's announced yet.
Well, I think they're getting ready to follow suit. But
everybody will, because at this point they have to, because it's a ripple effect because of all the out of conference games that they play.
Yeah.
And how it's interwoven with each other. It's bad for college football.
Well, here's my other opinion of it is I think college football is going to I don't know that it's going to happen this year. Like, I think that's like this whole thing of is playing only conference games, whether it's bad for college football or not. I don't think college football is going to happen. One of my main reasons is how many teams are getting sick now and having to cancel practice for 2 to 3 weeks this summer because of it. And those teams are going to sit there and go, we want to push back. Can we push back when we start because of this? And that's just going to keep, we want to push back now because our team caught it 2 weeks before that. I don't think it's going to happen.
Interesting fact. There's one college football team that has not had any player sick or anybody in the coaching staff. Name that school.
Is it
Alabama?
Tennessee?
Nope. It is.
Tennessee?
Yep.
It's because they've got the
pouring money into testing more than most schools are.
Yeah.
Are they testing on their body form underneath? Is that underneath the football stadium?
It's not.
Oh. But
okay.
Yes,
speaking of not happening this year, I have a conspiracy theory. Are you ready?
We need our aluminum foil hats.
Okay.
And he's on one.
Major League Baseball. Here's my theory. The Major League Baseball players did not get what they wanted. The owners got what they wanted.
Mm.
And so the Major League Baseball players, slowly but surely, are all dropping out in suit. And if there is a Major League Baseball season this season, it'll be a shadow of a product that it would have been. Because I think you do have players that will play, like the international players. They don't care. They're going to go out there and play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But it's heavily going to hurt the product because there's a lot of players, major players, and because they've already started the fallout that will not play. And so if baseball, I'm not saying baseball is not going to happen, but I'm saying that some of the players, and I think the Players Association is kind of pushing this way, that a lot of players are dropping out, are sitting out of the season. Now, some of them have legitimate reasons. I get that. But some of them don't. And so I think it's a Players Association led that they're dropping out, and it will drastically impact the season. Thoughts?
I think it will impact the season, and actually, I agree with Andy on this, which does not happen often on this show. But I do agree with Andy on this. I do think it's conspiracy, but I'm one of those guys that say, bring it on. This could be a chance for a lot of farm league guys to get a chance to play and go out there and show what they got. Like, this could be the opportunity for these guys that won't ever get an opportunity to actually get one, and they could blow up and do amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today because Buster Posey with the Giants just opted out for the season. And he has legitimate reason. He has a set of twins that are premature, so he wants to make sure they're healthy. And the Giants have a stud catcher in like AA, AAA, who's looked at as Posey's replacement. Well, their general manager came out and was like, yeah, he's probably not going to play this year, even though Posey just backed out. So I'm thinking that maybe teams will not bring up their superstar prospect because this will count as games played, and this will count as a year towards their free agency. So I'm thinking
it could.
Oh, go ahead.
And it could expose them.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see a lot of these top tier prospects, trade bait prospects and stuff, not play this season because of, they want to keep their value up, and it's going to be the teams making that decision. Because I was surprised when I read it that the general manager thought that way. Then I started laughing because Chris Bryant just had that grievance with the Cubs and with Major League Baseball. Because didn't they bring him up like the day after the cutoff line for a year of service? Yeah. And Major League teams do that a lot. So I think they'll hold people back this year so it doesn't count, or they don't waste a year. So I think it's going to affect the season, but I'm still waiting for that one major player to back out of the season, to opt out. And I doubt it'll be Mike Trout. I doubt it'll be Cody Bellinger. Like, who do you guys think could be the main player to actually say they're not playing this season? That'll catch everyone's attention. Because as a Dodgers fan, I could care less about Posey not playing.
Who I could see doing it? Judge.
Think old Aaron Judge could back out?
I think so. I think mainly because he's made enough of a name for himself that, because some guys are going to go, if I don't play this year, I don't want to lose my spot next year. Like, I could lose money. Aaron Judge isn't going to lose any money.
Right.
He'll lose money this season if he doesn't have a valid reason for opting out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's made enough money that he doesn't have to worry about it.
Well, if he handles his money right. But
has he signed a contract, or is he still arbitration eligible?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't pretend to know that stuff.
That dude hasn't made any money yet.
The two biggest names that have dropped out so far are Buster Posey and David Price.
Price.
They're the biggest names.
My feelings, it's like my feelings weren't hurt when Price decided he didn't want to play. I was like, oh, the Dodgers need another left-handed pitcher with a sub or a 4.0 ERA. We're good.
But I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know I don't know if there's like a big name that's gonna opt out. But anyway, that's my thoughts.
Because you see other sports, like the bubble in Orlando, and I guarantee if LeBron said, I'm not playing, there'd be a ton of players following suit right behind him. So I wonder if there's anyone in the MLB like that. Would it be like Verlander? Probably would be Trout, but Trout's gonna play. So that's what I was wondering. I wonder if there's somebody like that would have that much influence.
I wonder who would have that much influence.
Well,
it's a tough one in baseball, huh?
Because it's such a regional sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question I have is, like, I know in some of these other sports, like the NBA, those guys, if they were to opt out, it could affect their endorsements. And is there a lot of endorsements in Major League Baseball? And like, would that possibly be, because fans want to see these sports come back. So a lot of the big names aren't going to do stuff to upset the fans, because if the fans like them, that means they get money. If the fans don't like them, then they don't make money.
Yeah, there's not a lot of personal endorsements in baseball that are big like that. The last big personal endorsement that I remember in baseball was Ken Griffey Jr. Because they did the Swingman line of things. Baseball gear.
Didn't Jeter have a lot of endorsement stuff?
Well, yeah, he had Nike. So he had Nike behind him, but I blank on who else would have that much pull. Like Jeter had it. Did A-Rod have a lot of push behind him?
I thought
steroids.
But yeah, whereas like Tom Brady, Cam Newton, like NFL players, basketball players, they seem to get these huge endorsements and shoe contracts and all that stuff. You really don't see a lot of MLB players. Like Yelich won the MVP, but I didn't even see him on like a Subway commercial.
Most people wouldn't even know who Christian Yelich is.
Yeah, because like you said, it's a regional sport. Like Mike Trout, who arguably is the greatest player in baseball, half the country doesn't get to see him play because he's playing at 10 o'clock for most of you guys.
Anaheim's really a small market.
It is a small market, and thank you for calling them Anaheim. They're orange. They're not even in LA County. They're in Orange County. So let's not get started on that one. That's a whole nother.
But anyway, so just think, okay? Like, because Joe brought up the NBA. What do you think is going to happen in the NBA if some of these major stars get the virus? Like, could you imagine if the Lakers are like getting ready to play Game 7 and LeBron James tests positive for the coronavirus and can't play in Game 7?
Well, to put back on our aluminum hats, how much do you want to bet that LeBron, AD, any of those guys, none of them are going to test positive for the coronavirus once the NBA Finals or once the playoffs even start? If somebody has it, it's going to be like the 12th man on the team. It's not going to be the stars. They might catch it after the finals, and then everyone get quarantined. But
they're having third-party doctors test. So it's not the team doctors. There are other doctors that are not associated with the NBA doing the test
But
The chances
third-party
of
doctors like money too.
Well, but the chances of keeping them quiet, in my opinion, are a lot less than.
Okay,
Team
well that's better though, because I'm like, really?
But no, I get you. I mean, I think LeBron has enough money to keep a doctor quiet for a week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, what I think is going to happen is if a big name gets it, like LeBron. I was trying to think if there's any other big name that would get it that they would maybe cancel for.
They won't cancel for LeBron getting it.
I think I could very quickly see them say if LeBron caught it, especially if it's early, like if it was like game 6 or 7, maybe not, but if it was early in the series or maybe before game 1, like right before it starts, the finals, if LeBron has it or Zion, if either of them were to get it, I think they say, "Oh, we had several guys get it. We have to shut down because it's a pandemic, and we've got to go ahead and shut down because too many people have it." Even if it was just one of them, they would very quickly say that and shut everything down.
I don't think that because the NBA spent too much money getting everybody down to Orlando.
I think they would because they spent too much money not to make the money off of the finals games that nobody watches because the big stars aren't playing in it.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is they shut down or delay everything. Like, hey, we got to do a 2-week delay on the finals because everyone on the team has it.
No, they won't. They won't delay it. If they're going to shut it down, they'll shut it down. They won't delay it.
Okay.
But I don't think they'll shut it down for one player, even if it is LeBron.
Yeah.
But the likelihood of this thing, if one player does get it, the likelihood of it being one player catching it and only one player is very slim.
I agree.
Well,
but I think the NBA will finish their season.
Yeah.
I do.
And it's just the tough part about that is, too, though, if one person has it, technically everybody they're in contact with needs to quarantine for 2 weeks. So, yeah, if one player on the team has it, that's the whole team. Should technically quarantine according to, rules and laws and all that stuff. Well, not laws, but recommendations.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say with both the NBA and MLB, if I have heard that if somebody catches it, they're only sitting out, only have to sit out until they have a test that comes back negative.
Okay.
So if you have a day where your test comes back positive, and then the next day you get a negative test, then you're back in.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
I mean, it's nice that sports eventually will be back, so we have something to fill our times and a reason not to be fixing stuff around the house all day, every day.
Joe, what are you talking about? There's a sport back. Soccer. Football is back.
But like I was saying, it'd be nice when sports do come back. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I heard Major League Soccer was back. Unfortunately, I am not a soccer aficionado. I'm not a fan of soccer. So, I don't like people running around and then laying on the ground with a sprained ankle for 5 minutes. I can't do it.
And they're playing in Orlando too.
Yeah. Well, and I would say the one thing I love that the MLS is doing, they're doing it like the World Cup. But the other big thing that I'm loving right now is the MLS got smart, and there's a lot of rivalry teams, kind of like in-state rivalries, like Orlando FC versus Miami International. And they have them play against each other first because they want the fans to be able to see the rivalry games in case they have to cancel the season. Like if teams start to get sick, if they've got to go ahead and cancel the season, then they want to get all the rivalry games out first so that the fans get what they want, which I think is a cool thing.
Yeah.
And the English Premier League has been playing for a while.
Did they ever stop?
They did.
Okay.
For a month.
Yeah, they didn't stop for long.
Yeah.
No, they did not.
Well, actually, it's not just the Premier League. It's the the league in Italy, the leagues in Spain, the leagues in Mexico, all those leagues have continued to go on. And they've been fun to watch, to be honest with you.
It's good for you guys. You have something to watch.
Don't get a lot to watch the English Premier League games over here because the time difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of football, not football, but football, the NFL has released a lot of rules and regulations, or stuff that they want to do this season when the season starts. But I want to know what your guys' opinion is on this, and I'm a little irritated by it. They can play an entire game, tackle each other, hit each other. They're playing football, right, for 3 hours, especially O linemen, D linemen hitting each other all game. But you cannot jersey swap at the end game after you've been going toe-to-toe with someone for 3 hours. And you're already covered in their sweat. You're already probably covered in their spit from tackling and all that. The NFL banned jersey swaps. To me, I'm like, why? Like, it makes zero sense to me why they're doing that after the game.
Meaningless rule. It won't stop them. They'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
I think they might do it anyway, but they'll probably do it after the cameras are off and after everyone's left, like when they're out in the parking lot or whatever, they'll change jerseys. I think it's a rule that's set up for more to save face, because there's a lot of that going on. Like even in the church, there are sometimes we sit there and as a staff member, I might go, I think this is a little overboard, but it makes other people feel comfortable. So we'll do the thing that's a little overboard so that others feel comfortable, and go, okay, they're being safe. I feel a little more comfortable because of that. And one of the big reasons I think especially for the NFL is they're still wanting to do fans. If I'm not wrong, if I'm correct on that.
Yep.
Less than capacity.
So by getting, like, if they make it seem safer, even though you wouldn't be anywhere near them changing uniforms, but if you sit there and go, oh, they put this rule in there so it's safer, okay, I don't have to worry about it. It's all good.
Right on. I don't know. I just thought of all that. Like, there's so much physical contact, and like, hey, you can't change sweaty jerseys. Like, get out of here with that. But I get it. I mean, it's a peace of mind thing. Like, hey, let's promote the image of, safety and I almost said sanity and sanitization, through that. But I still don't like it.
Well, and I would say, talking about preserving the image and everything else, there is another thing the NFL, or one team in the NFL, is doing because of the image of their name. Joe, you want to talk about that a little more? Because I know this hits closer to home for you than it does for me or Andy. Well, those of you that are watching live on YouTube with us now know when we talk about freezing, this is what happens when Joe freezes. So,
this is why we don't put anything on YouTube.
But now you all get to enjoy that and have fun with that. So, but okay, while we wait for Joe to get back on, we're just keep on going. So the Redskins are changing their name, the Washington Redskins, because it's just, I mean, talking about names and stuff that's just demoralizing or racist or just gives a bad image about something, that's probably a term that you don't want to use. So they're getting rid of that. Andy, what's your thoughts on it?
I don't know. See, we're probably the two worst people to sit here and talk about this. You can't get much water than what we are. But I'm not sure if it's the name Redskins that is the problem. Like I think I think it's more of the symbolism of like their helmet logo and things like that. And I think if they were to align themselves with a tribe, and I know Joe's talked about this, if they were to align themselves with a tribe from that area, I think they would be put in a better. I think it would be a better situation for them. Because Joe, you can help me out here, but I know because when we were talking off air, Joe mentioned the Utah Utes. I didn't know what a Ute was.
Yeah, they're and outside of being a couple young people, from a couple young people from Jersey, them two Utes. Actually, the Utes are a tribe in Utah. Where do you think Utah the name Utah comes from? Is from that tribe, and they're endorsed by the tribe, the Utes. Like Florida State Seminoles, the Seminoles endorsed the college and have given them permission to use that name. However, and up until recently, the Chicago Blackhawks were actually honoring a native chief from a tribe up in the Illinois area, and they were allowing them to use the Blackhawk name, which unfortunately within the last 2 years, the tribes and people up there are starting to pressure the Chicago Blackhawks to change the name because they're starting to look at it as more of a caricature than an actual representation of the person of who they're trying to honor, and they're feeling that that's becoming disrespectful. So and then you look at the Washington football team and their name. And I heard somebody on a sports show the other day, he was hosting for a national show, and it really got me irritated, was saying that the name of the Washington football team is not a slur. Like it's not a slur unless everybody's offended by it. And I was like, are you serious? That's one of the most ignorant things I've ever heard. Just because you're not offended by it doesn't mean it's not offensive to the person who that word refers to. And when you look it up, look at Webster's dictionary, and you look up the term for the Washington football team, it is a negative term used for Native Americans. It's a defined slur. So change the name. That's all you have to do is change the name, get rid of it. Keep the imagery. I happen to like their logo. Like, to me, that's a strong Native warrior, It looks like the honorable warrior, unlike Cleveland's logo, which is a cartoon and a very poor cartoon. So
poor baseball team too.
Yeah. I'm 50-50 on the Indians name, because like up until recently, like I was even like, oh yeah, even my tribe is a band of Mission Indians. It's in our name. So I'm 50-50 on being called Indian, but just change the logos, because even that's a caricature. That's a cartoon. That image that they use on their hat for Cleveland is actually a cartoon they used to draw making fun of a Native American named Louis Sockalexis, who was on the Cleveland team when they were the Spiders, and that's why they changed their name to the Indians, was because of Louis Sockalexis. And teams would make fun of them. Oh, the Indians are coming to town. We're going to scalp the Indians. It was a negative thing. But then, of course, marketing people wanting to make money were like, hey, let's jump on this. Let's change our name to the Indians. And they did. And so it's like, change that logo. If you want to still be called the Indians, that's fine. Change the logo. Because that's, was designed to be a negative thing. And people who, they understand the history of it, they realize it is a negative image, and it's a cartoon. It's a caricature. It, in my opinion, my personal opinion, it dehumanizes Native Americans in the sense of it makes you think of them as cartoon characters. It makes you think of them as make-believe, as not real people, as not a guy who's, sitting right here in front of you right now. You don't think of me as Native, even though I don't look, stereotypically like a Native American man. I am Native, born and raised on an Indian reservation. Culturally and ethnically, I am Native. And that was a conversation we had off there too, about other culture and ethnically, but that's who I am. Go ahead.
Hey Joe, I have a question.
Yeah.
How come they don't call them Native American reservations?
Because when they were named, they called them Indians.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been an Indian reservation forever. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and I think because I think it ultimately goes back to how you're raised. But like I can separate the Indians that we know from like cartoons. Like, the one thing that always pops up is like Peter Pan. From actual from like actual Native Americans, because I've never seen a Native American that looks like the Indians on any of the cartoons or whatever. And even even in like a full headdress or whatever, there's very distinct different and so and ultimately I think it's how you're raised, and I've always separated those two. But I mean, I get where it's coming. I get where you're coming from. But yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, and it's just tough because people. When I was a kid, though, I was a huge Indians fan. Of course, I had the hat. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But then the older I got, and it's just it comes to maturity and education. And once you start learning the history behind stuff, you start going, man, okay, maybe this isn't as cool as I thought it was. And but the thing is trying to educate other people. Like, I'm not walking around slapping red, Washington hats off people's heads or Cleveland Indians hats off people's heads and cussing them out or anything. Instead, I'm kind of like, hey, this is the history behind that. It's up to you to make your decision, but here's, let's educate people on it. Like, I'd rather call somebody in and talk to them about why it's offensive versus being a jerk and like attacking them for it, which you see people do all the time.
Right. Well, and I will say this about the Indians now, and I don't know about any other logos that they have, but I know at least their hats, they've gone to that block C for Cleveland.
I won't lie, that's a pretty legit looking hat.
Yeah,
just a simple C. Yeah. And I will tell you a team I do not have a problem with is I do not mind the Atlanta Braves. It's a tomahawk. It's
Other
a
than
really
the fact that they beat the Dodgers all the time.
yeah. Other than the fact that they beat the Dodgers.
Well,
historically, yes, they beat the Dodgers.
Historically.
But yes, I do not like the tomahawk chop. I'm not a fan of that. You can keep that and throw that in the garbage. But the Braves, I feel like they don't cartoon natives. They don't spoof them. They're, it's a Brave. Like, that's cool. I don't mind that.
Well, and they did have a logo that they used back in the day that they kind of retired, and they tried to bring it back for their batting practice hats a couple of years ago. They called it the Screaming Banshee.
Yeah, it's the Mohawk Indian.
Yeah.
With the see,
but
that's a cool logo though.
Well, but they had a lot of pushback from this area about using it from the natives in this area, and so they have officially retired that logo now.
Well, see, I think that's like what Washington's doing, what Atlanta did, what Cleveland is doing, getting rid of that stuff. When they hear it, they're getting rid of that stuff. Washington is working on changing their name. And there's a whole bunch of different names we've heard talked about, but they're trying to be, they're hearing that and they're going and changing their ways, which is kind of ties into our faith segment and our next segment too. That I think our next segment is part of our faith segment, to be honest with you. When it comes to sports, Deshaun Jackson had a post this week that was very anti-Semitic. Won't repeat what he said, but he didn't say anything really. He just copy and pasted something that was said by Hitler and put it out there, and just not very smart and very.
Be careful who you quote.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even the quote itself was anti-Semitic. It wasn't like, hey, here's something that Hitler said that was really cool. It was just bad in general. Like, it wasn't even good.
Regardless of who said it, it was a bad quote.
Right.
Yeah. And the bigger part of it was, though, that instead of a lot of hate coming his way, and there was some, but the approach by several people to include Edelman from the Patriots.
What's his name?
Edelman.
Okay.
It's not.
Sorry, guys. Off the air, he butchered that name a little while ago, so I was hoping he'd say it again, but he didn't.
No, but Edelman is a Jewish man, and so he approached and he talked to him, and kind of even said, okay, look, you might not get what you said or what was actually meant behind what you said, but I want to show you what actually happened to us as a Jewish people. And so he's invited him, I believe actually on Friday, they were supposed to go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. together. And they were going to go do that. And then the owners and the owner and the GM, I believe, of the Sixers also reached out to him and talked to him. And then he reached out and sat down and talked with a Holocaust survivor. And he's supposed to be going to actually, they talked to a rabbi also, him and his agent, and he's supposed to be going and doing service with one of the Jewish temples, and supposed to be kind of going through all of that and learning from them. And to me, that right there is a sense of unity. And I love Joe, when we were texting back and forth about all this, Joe said it's did you call it call in?
Yeah. Instead of call out culture, cancel culture, man. How about, call in culture? Educate your brothers and sisters. If somebody says something, puts their foot in their mouth, well, help them take it out, help educate them. And and on top of the Edelman thing where he invited them to the Holocaust Museum, Edelman also offered to go with Deshaun Jackson to the African American History Museum in DC as well. So it was like and I thought that was cool. It's like, hey, it's an exchange of culture. Let's go check out the African American History Museum. I can learn more about you, your culture, your history, and you can learn about mine. So I thought that was awesome too. That it wasn't just a one way, hey, you need to learn about me. It's like, hey, let me learn about you too. And we need more of that. Let's coin that phrase, call in culture. Let's start educating each other and listening.
Yeah. I think that's the best way. And I think that's what unity is all about. And kind of what I wanted to talk about a little more in depth is this idea of unity. Not just, we talk about unity in America, unity in the world, but especially as Christians, Christ calls us to unity. I mean, that was his prayer to God in the garden before he goes to die on the cross. Like, Jesus is there and he goes, hey, God, I pray that they be united and be one like you and I are one. And that like I am in you, or you are in me, that they will be in us and be united so the world will know that they are ours. And I have to admit, one of the biggest struggles I'm having right now as a minister is I look out, not just in like my congregation or even in my community of churches, but I look out among a lot of the churches in America right now, and I see a lot of disunity. And it's over several different things. Like, it's not just a race issue. It's not just like, one of the big things now is whether masks or no masks. Like, churches are dividing over this stuff on whether you should have to wear a mask in church or not. And we get so caught up in it. Like, churches divide over what worship music you listen to, what worship music you sing. Churches will divide.
The color the carpet is.
The color of the carpet.
Pews or chairs.
Yeah. Like, all sorts of stuff that causes disunity in the church. And it saddens me. Like, the biggest thing to me that frustrates me even more is I'm a part of a lot of different Facebook groups with youth ministers. And when you get on there and go through posts and look at, like, here's a cool post, and I start reading all the comments, and it's just fighting and arguing all the way through them.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a sad state of affairs, that the people that are leading our youth spiritually are the ones that are fighting just as much as everyone else.
Well, and I think one of the reasons for all the disunity, especially in the church, is because we've been apart for so long. Because, I mean, churches were splitting. I mean, even when we were meeting together corporately every week. But we've been separated for so long in our homes, not connecting with the body. I think we've lost connection with the body. And we had to... and a lot of people had the opportunity to listen to other pastors that they may not have listened to. Like, we've listened to several different pastors. Now we're in a different situation. We don't have a church home right now because of things that happened, but right before the quarantine hit. But yeah, it's crazy that, and ultimately I think it's because of we're so separated, and we're all doing it online, and and we've been able to see other pastors, and we're not connected with each other anymore. And I think ultimately that's the reason, one of the reasons, and all these other things that people are saying, like, the worship music, and whether churches where you wear a mask in church, or what the color of the carpet is, whether there's not stained glass or there is stained glass, or pews and chairs, whatever, all these other, there are other issues, but there are other issues there. These are just what people say. I mean, just more of a spoken issue, but there is a deeper issue. And I think now the deeper issue is that we've been disconnected from each other for so long, that it's easier to leave because you don't feel that connection anymore.
Yeah. And here's the issue, though, that I have with all of that is it comes back to everything is focused on me.
Oh yeah.
Like we forget why we're following Christ, like why we're even going to church. Like why do we call ourselves Christians? We forget the main reason why we're doing what we're doing. And that's when all of it starts to go bad, is when you forget why you're here, why you're following Christ is because he loved us, because he died on the cross for us, because of his grace. We've accepted that, and we want to follow him. And in following him, we do it all for his glory.
Mm-hmm.
And if we bring that mindset back, I think we sit there and we will go, okay, this doesn't matter. Like, if the church says I need to wear a mask, then okay, I might feel a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it. If someone in the church wanted pink walls, then okay, we'll do pink walls in the church. It's not going to affect, like, it doesn't change how like if our church glorifies God, if we have pink walls, or if we listen to hymns, or we listen to rap music at church on Sunday morning. That stuff doesn't matter. The stuff that matters is if we're unified, loving people and loving God.
Right.
Well, and I've said in many conversations that once people fall in love with Jesus, all these other things don't matter. Like, the issues that people have will fade away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still going to be issues, but I think we are more tolerant of issues if we fall in love with Jesus, because he is our focus. And yeah, so I mean, I could keep going about so many different things. Like, people don't want to sing hymns, but there's a reason why hymns that were written by Martin Luther are still being sung today. And why worship songs that were written a month ago are no longer being sung in churches today. Like, there's a reason for that. It's because the things that Martin Luther wrote were good. They're rich theologically, and there's and that was just the first name that popped up. It was a hymn writer. But yeah, there's a reason why those hymns are still around after so many years. And it's not because they're old school. It's because they're good. They're solid theologically, and we've talked about off air that a lot of the worship songs today you could mistake for songs singing to your boyfriend.
Yes.
And the biggest and I always have an issue, and I am very picky about things that we do in church, and I don't want to get into that. We can get into that some other day. But in my opinion, if you are singing a worship song in church, then it should be sung to God, not about God. If that makes sense. Like, so many of our modern worship songs, like we're talking about God.
Yeah, but all that still combined together, even if someone does like that type of music or that's what they worship with, doesn't mean that I can't fellowship with them.
Right.
Right.
And
we
still
might
be
just
unified
not
with
go
them.
for a 6-hour car ride together. So.
Yeah. and that's the thing. Like, that's one thing I love about doing this podcast with you guys is because, one, we're all 3 different denominations. 2 of us know our denomination. 1 of us still isn't sure what denomination he is.
We're non-denominational.
But we're all 3 different denominations, and we might believe things like we might have ways we do things a little different than the others, but we still are united in our love and passion for Christ and our love and passion for others. Mm-hmm. And that's what it matters when it comes down to at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And even if I might irritate Andy, or Andy might irritate me, or Joe might irritate both of us, I mean, you never know. All right. But we're still.
Or you guys could irritate me.
Joe is so laid back and easygoing, nobody irritates Joe.
Yeah, that's not true.
Okay. But I'll say about all that, like, I still pray for each and every one of you guys every night.
Yeah.
Even if I get irritated by you, because we're brothers in Christ. That's what unity is supposed to be. That's what the church is supposed to look like.
Right. And I just want a disclaimer. I have my preferences about the way certain things should, look in a worship service, but I'm not gonna leave a church because they decide to sing a worship song that I don't like. And yes, there are worship songs that I don't like.
Yeah.
That's not sacrilegious. The songs are sacrilegious.
Well,
but
and to jump on all that, one thing that I think hurts the church, like unity wise, is we go into a church, just like you said, like there might be something that you don't like, but people want the church to fit them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people go to a church to find a church that fits them, that makes them happy, that's, like, oh, this is so great, and this is where I fit in. And so, yeah, they want the church, they want their gospel, and they want all of their, their salvation to fit them versus them actually changing and sacrificing to fit, salvation and to fit God and to fit church. Because even with helping with youth ministry, I'm like, almost 20 years older than our youth minister, and I love him to death. He's a great guy. And there's so many times I'm like, man, I know better than this guy. Or, and I tell him that too, jokingly sometimes. But there's some things that I don't agree with, but he's the minister. And I'm not going to stop being a youth, helping with the youth because we don't agree on something, or I think of a better way to do something, or he's not doing it the way I think it should be done. I mean, I'll approach him, we'll sit down, we'll have a cup of coffee, talk about it, but ultimately I'm there to serve the youth. I'm there to serve God. I'm not there for Joe to look good. I'm there to hit kids with dodgeballs. But honestly, I'm there to help these youth. So, but I think a lot of times we get caught up in, we want everything to fit us versus us sacrificing and fitting the church. And I think that's where all this discord comes from. So.
Exactly. And what we want to put the invite out, or the, just let you know, if you want to talk more about this with us, you can get on any of our social media stuff. You can get on to the comments, talk to us. We would love to talk back with you about what unity is, and if maybe you struggle with unity in your life, and if you want pointers or just want to talk about it, or don't even know what unity looks like because maybe you've not seen it in your church, we would love to talk with you about that. So please reach out to us. And to close out today, Joe, will you pray for us?
Hey, before you
definitely.
do that, one more thought. Okay. I have a hot take before the prayer. Okay. I'm full of them today. Okay. And I'll tie this back in, I promise. So the one thing that helped the church as a whole, and at the same time hurt the church as a whole, was the mass production of Scripture. Because before Bibles were printed in masses like they are today, you had to rely on people who were schooled in the Scriptures for their interpretation. Okay, now that backfired, which is why that Protestant Reformation happened. But also, and I think, and once this Bible started being mass produced, it helps people know when bad theology is being taught, when something's being taught, it's not read. Mm-hmm. But it also gives the opportunity for people who don't know Scripture to bend it in a way that makes their preferences more important than Scripture. Okay, so this is what I want to encourage everybody. If you jump in your Bibles, understand what Scripture says in context. Mm-hmm. Also, read books about other cultures. One of the best things that happened to me when I was in college was I took an African American lit class. I was the only white boy in that class. Okay, but one of the best books that we read, and it was one of the hardest books that I had to read, was Frederick Douglass's autobiography. Okay, and it's because it's somebody who came from a different culture than me wrote it, and it doesn't have to be a black person writing it to come from a different culture. Read Dietrich Bonhoeffer's. I read Dietrich Bonhoeffer's autobiography. He came from a different culture. It's very eye-opening. He was a pastor theologian in the time of World War II. He was actually one of the guys that was trying to assassinate Hitler. Interesting story. It's fun. But anyway, read books from other cultures. Try to understand other cultures. Read Scripture. Yes, it comes from a different culture, but it will help you understand, and it'll give you you'll be able to see the issues that we've talked about through a biblical worldview. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to jump off my soapbox and give it back to Joe.
No, that's an excellent point. That's a good way to close it out. All right, man. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. We'll say a little prayer here. So let's get started. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and the opportunity we had to come together and have this discussion, Lord. Bless these two men, and I pray for them daily. You just give them health and happiness, and just bless everybody out there who's listening right now. Let them dive into your word. Let them learn something new, Lord. Let them listen to people who aren't the same as them and learn from other people's cultures, Lord. And let them be able to express how they feel with other people and take the anger out of their heart, Lord, and just help people, help this nation to come together, help this nation to unify, help our churches to unify, and the main focus should be you, Lord. And I just pray again for everybody's health, everyone's safety. We love everybody. Amen.